All right, welcome back to reading today. We are reading The Classroom at the End of the Hall. We are finishing the part we started yesterday about Kenneth. Who can catch us up about Kenneth? What's his deal? What's going on that's a little strange? Noah, start us off.
So he can't read that good.
Okay.
And he found this book. And he said, there's no things, no words, and it was a picture. And about the snow ground covered in snow and a person wearing a big orange suit.
Uh-huh.
He's like, that's ridiculous. No one heard that. And then the next day it actually happened.
To him, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the first picture he saw, Hayden, what was the first picture he saw?
He kind of read it. It said, Kenneth has arrived.
Yeah, it was something about Kenneth is reading in the reading corner, right? He has to sit in the reading corner by himself every day. And he thought, that's weird. That's me in the picture, and it has my name. The next page had him in that big orange parka, which is a big orange coat. And then that happened the next day because his mom said, your coat's still in the attic. You get to wear your dad's to school. He was not very happy, but he did it.
It's like the future.
All right, so I will go back and read a little bit of what we ended on because we ended middle of a chapter. Okay. So he's raising the book back up. Oh, we read way past that. Hold on. Okay, so Mom is saying you have to wear that coat. I'll start there. As you might expect, Kenneth threw a major temper tantrum. But when the school bus pulled up in front of his house, he had no choice but to grab the old orange coat and race outside. The bus rolled up in front of W.T. Mellon Elementary School. The second the door folded open, Kenneth bounded down the stairs. Overnight, a thick quilt of snow had covered the playground. Icicles hung from the school's gutters like fangs. A layer of white sheathed the jungle gym, swings, and merry-go-round, and each tetherball pole wore a white top hat. Being the first one off the bus, Kenneth got to make the first tracks across the snow-covered asphalt. I look like a giant pumpkin in this parka, he grumbled, stopping by the slide. That's when the picture in the purple reader dawned on him. 3 snowballs whizzed past his head as he thought, how screwy. It happened exactly the way the purple book said it would. The book said it would snow, and it said I would wear this orange coat to school. And look, here's the snow and here's the stupid coat. The morning bell interrupted Kenneth's thoughts, and he charged toward the school door. Tramp, tramp, tramp went the sound of rubber boots as bundles of wool and nylon marched into the room at the end of the hall. Marbles of snow clung to coats, mittens, and stocking hats. Please deposit all icicle spears and snowballs into the sink, ordered the tall teacher. Tramp, tramp, tramp. Each bundle entered the coat closet and exited out as a rosy-cheeked, red-nosed third grader. For the first time in his life, Kenneth was anxious for reading to begin. I will meet with the red reading group first, announced the tall teacher. The blue reading group should do the next 2 pages in their workbooks. And Kenneth had already dived into the reading corner. Now, where was that thick purple reader? He found it on the bottom shelf and yanked it out. Laying on his belly, he re-examined the snow picture on the second page, then flipped to page 3. All right, when we read before, after the snow picture, how did all the other pages in the book look? Quentin?
Blank.
They were blank. So we're going to see what happened today. He flipped to page 3. To his surprise, he discovered a picture on it today, a watercolor of a snowman. He stood on the playground peering into the room at the end of the hall. What a strange-looking snowman, Kenneth told himself. Under the picture appeared 6 lines of writing, slightly smaller than the ones on page 2. Squinting at the words, Kenneth began to read. A snowman stood outside the classroom window. The snowman had the usual round head and large round belly. A pair of glasses circled 2 rocks used for eyes, and an apple served for a mouth. But how odd! A black beard dangled from his chin. The snowman watched Kenneth read. Screwy, said Kenneth, shaking his head. There's no snowman outside the window. Here he paused. He set down the book and looked up. Is there? Could there be? Slowly, Kenneth rose to his knees. There he was, all right, the snowman, exactly as he appeared in the purple reader picture. Kenneth smacked his mound of red hair and dropped onto his bottom. He grabbed the book and stared at the picture again. This book knows things, he said. It told me about the snow, and it told me about the snowman. Could it tell me what will happen next? Kenneth gulped air. With one shaky finger, he turned the page. Page 4 held a smaller picture with 10 lines of writing beneath it. The picture showed the room at the end of the hall empty and with the lights off. Kenneth squinted at the words. Although some were long, he was determined to read every one of them. The last line said, "The lights suddenly went out in the classroom at the end of the hall. The teacher announced that the class could go outside and have a snowball fight." "Impossible," said Kenneth. "That could never happen." But as Kenneth spoke, the room went dark. "Well, people, I see our school has lost electricity," the tall teacher called from the reading table. "But that snow sure looks inviting out the window. Let's go outside for the first snowball fight of the year." Kenneth dropped the book he was holding. "It's true," he said. "It's screwy but true. This book can tell me the future." From that day on, reading period was Kenneth's favorite time of the day. Each morning when the tall teacher announced reading, Kenneth dove headfirst toward the reading corner and pulled out the purple reader. Each day he discovered a new watercolor with sentences under it. Each day the pictures grew smaller and smaller and the words more plentiful, but Kenneth never failed to read every one of them. 1 week after discovering the book, Kenneth turned to a picture of Emily. Recently, Emily had been freed of the braces on her teeth and now wore a retainer. Kenneth read that Emily would soon reach into the lunchroom garbage can and pick up the silver, wiry object. All right, so you guys are a little young for braces, but once you get braces, when you're finished with them, you get a retainer.
My sister was getting braces.
All right, so listen. So maybe you've heard similar stories, but a lot of times what happens, you have to wear your retainer all the time except for when you're eating and brushing your teeth. So when people eat lunch sometimes at school, they'll take out their retainer and set it on a napkin or something and forget to put it back and gather up all their trash, and they end up throwing away their retainer. This has happened to so many of my friends. So that is what this picture book predicted. Do you think it's going to actually come out true?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. That afternoon, Emily was in tears. "I lost my new retainer," she said to the tall teacher. "My mom will kill me if I don't find it." Kenneth's hand shot in the air. "Emily, I bet you took your retainer out during lunch," he said. "I think you threw it away with your lunch scraps." At once, Emily raced to the lunchroom and retrieved her retainer. "I never imagined reading could be this interesting," Kenneth told himself. On page 10 of the purple reader, Kenneth read that the fire alarm would go off at 11:20. So he left his warm coat and boots on after the 11 o'clock recess. Sure enough, he was the only warm third grader during the fire drill. On page 11, he read that Francis would throw up in the afternoon. "You'd better go to the nurse's room right now," he told Francis after lunch. "You might be embarrassed if you don't." Francis looked at him with a green face and nodded. "I never imagined reading could be so useful," said Kenneth, watching Francis leave the room. After 3 weeks, the watercolors disappeared from the purple reader. From then on, when Kenneth turned to the next page, he found only writing. Still, each reading period, Kenneth would sit cross-legged on the reading corner rug and decipher every word on the page. Finally, the day came when he pulled the purple reader off the bottom shelf and flipped to the final page. "I've read this entire book," he said to himself. "I wonder what the last page could tell me." Kenneth placed the book on his lap. Although the page contained 25 lines of writing and dozens of tricky-to-read words, he squinted at the page and began to read. A big change came for Kenneth. He was no longer in the reading corner. Here, Kenneth hesitated. A sense of dread passed through him. "A big change," he said. "What big change? Something bad, maybe. Why aren't I in the picture? Where am I? What happened to me?" For the first time, Kenneth thought that knowing the future might not be so exciting. He smacked his mop of red hair and lowered the book. "I can't read anymore," he said. "Something bad is going to happen to me. I'm such a crummy reader. Maybe they'll send me back a grade. Or maybe they'll put me in the class for bad readers. Or even worse, maybe I will suddenly get sick." Maybe I'll have a serious accident. At that moment, the tall teacher stood up from the reading table. Okay, people, he said. Will the red reading group do the next 2 pages in their workbooks? This is it, Kenneth said under his breath. Here goes. Whatever is going to happen will happen now. Will the blue reading group come to the reading table, said the tall teacher. And Kenneth? Kenneth couldn't breathe. His heart thumped hard under his t-shirt. What? He called out meekly. It's okay, I'll stay here in the reading corner. No problem, I don't mind. I'm perfectly happy here. I'll just sit here quietly and reread one of these picture books. Kenneth, said the tall teacher. In the past 2 months, your reading has improved a great deal. I've been watching you. You've been making a big effort back in the reading corner. I always knew you had the ability. Why don't you put down that purple book and join the blue reading group from now on? I don't think you will have any trouble. All right, and that is the end. Now, what lesson do you think, people at home think too, what lesson do you think Kenneth learned about himself? What moral can we take from Kenneth's story? Eric?
He learned to read and now he can read.
Okay, so how can we apply the lesson Eric learned to our own lives? Or Kenneth, not Eric. You are Eric.
He thought that he couldn't read, but now he can.
Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever said, I can't do that. All your hands should be up. I've heard most of you say it once or twice in here. What can we say instead of I can't do that? Zoe?
I can't do it yet.
I can't do it yet. Okay? A lot of things we try, you have to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And by the end of 4th grade, you'll be able to do it. Okay? So let Kenneth be a good example. You'd never, ever give up. All right. All of you at home, I'll see you later. Have a great day.
That's kind of what Emmett